Hello again, whiskey friends. Thanks for joining me for another review, everybody. And today's pour, I am ultra excited to talk about this one and get another chance just to drink it. But today, I am going to be raving about Still Austin, and this is particularly a single barrel pick from Nancy Fraley. Man, let's get into this one, and I'm going to tell you in this video why you really need to keep an eye on these single barrels as they begin to drop more and more. So thank you for joining me today, whiskey friends. Let's kick off the show. All right. So let's pour today's tasting into this fancy glass right here. Got this glass from Jason, the Modern Norseman. So be sure to check out his channel over there on Norseman's Only Drams. Cheers, Jason. Oh man, I am really excited to get into it, and that smell was even better than I remember, but I'm getting ahead of myself. So let's talk a bit first about Still Austin here. And I'll zoom in on this label so you can see it. So this is a single barrel pick coming from Nancy Fraley. It is about 4 years old, 119 proof. And what's exciting is there's actually a tag here with some tasting notes on it. So after I go through mine, we'll actually go back to Nancy's because I think it's real interesting to hear the different translations, but very, I don't know, there's some similarities there, but I love seeing those type of things just to see how different people articulate the tasting notes. Nancy is, of course, way more elegant than I am, but we'll get into the similarities. I like it. So with Still Austin, if you have not tried Still Austin bourbon yet, oh man, I really recommend it. I love the batches anyway, just the cast strength regular release. That has been one of my favorite pours and most surprising pours of the last year. And even going back this May, our executive producer Todd gave us a blind flight of 12 craft whiskeys from all over the country, and Still Austin ended up winning that whole flight as well. At least for me. I think for Darrell and Kelsey as well. I'm pretty sure it was at the top and it won between the collective. But it has stuck out in my mind ever since. And now that I've been hearing that single barrels have been coming out, very special whiskey friends reached out and wanted to know if I was interested in this bottle, and I couldn't have said yes so quickly. Now, this one is coming from Nancy Fraley. The other thing that's real interesting is actually on the exact day that this review is going to drop, 21090 is releasing a Still Austin pick. And as far as I know, they're one of the first YouTube groups, but I think they're one of the first groups in general that had the pleasure of doing a pick, which just means more picks are coming. That makes me very, very excited. And I can't wait to hear about theirs, maybe get a sample of theirs, compare it to this one to start seeing the range of these Still Austin single barrels. Now, this particular one that we're going to go through does vary from the cast strength blended release that I've had. But man, it sticks out in so many ways. And there are some notes in this thing that I've really not called out on anything else. So I'm just going to keep raving about it. It's even more impressive that we're sitting here talking about something that's only 4 years old. I know it ages differently in Texas, but man, they are getting a lot out of just the short time that those whiskeys were in a barrel. Well, let's get into this one. We're going to go into the nose, get into the palate, go through the notes, and then we'll pull up the final scores. As you can tell already, though, those final scores are going to be pretty good. Let's see how high it goes. Cheers, everybody. Thank you for joining me this far. Oh, geez. Oh, man. I don't know if it's the different glass that's like putting oh man, it's bringing out different flavors, it's bringing out emphasis on different flavors, but all the same flavors are there. But the one that comes through even more right off the bat is this lemon zest. But ultimately, and I'm going to come back to this note over and over again, what I get off of this thing is a bunch of different blueberry pastries of some sort. In this particular one with the nose, I equated it to a coffee cake, but a coffee cake with blueberries in it. Not something that I've ever actually had before, but just like that cake part of it is more like a coffee cake, even with all the that hard, brown sugar clumps all over the top of it, if you know what I'm talking about. But it's got the blueberries in it. And this thing keeps hitting with blueberries. I'm very interested to see if I can continue to get it on the palate. The other thing that sticks out to me, there's a red fruit. It's a red fruit with a little bit of sourness to it. I've been equating it to a pomegranate. That's been the best thing that I've been able to equivalent it to. But just that combination of that pomegranate, the lemon zest, the blueberries all around that coffee cake. I mean, what a nose. All right, let's go in for a taste. Cheers, everybody. Mhm. Oh man. Oh man, that sip was really good. Oh, that sip was unbelievably good. Man. So initially, let's talk about the mouthfeel. This mouthfeel really does stick out. It starts running along the sides of the tongue, which is one of those things that's real fun because then you start getting even more flavor initially than you do on some other bourbons. That pomegranate still sticks out to me up front, but mostly it's just really spicy initially. Got some pepper, got some brown sugar, but just a combination of that with that pomegranate is what I get initially. Mm, man. Then getting into mid palate, I start getting a little bit of this maple syrup sensation. The sweetness dials up with that. And then there's once again going back to the blueberry muffins, but blueberry muffins that have been like a little burnt on the top, which I kind of like when you get that top of it that's been a little bit charred, but then the bottom of it's all nice and moist. All right, let's see if there's anything else mid palate. I think the only other thing that I want to call out mid palate, it's like a vanilla custard. So you got a vanilla custard mixed with the those blueberry muffins that got some good char on them. And then they got that drizzle of maple syrup on them as well. Ooh, I wonder if the maple syrup is what was poured on those muffins, which is then what gave it that char. I wonder if that would work in real life. I gotta try that. All right, let's go to the finish. Mm, man, ooh, man, got a bunch of barrel char on that one. Almost came off as some chocolate. I don't recall that before. The lemon zest comes through a bit more, lends to it a bit of that brightness. That vanilla custard turns into more of a vanilla icing, I would say, especially towards the back end because it does get really bright and vanilla at the tail end of the finish. The finish is really strong too. And still going to be tasting those blueberry muffins. So this is all about blueberries, blueberry pastries, blueberry muffins. All right, one last one, and then let's get into the official scores. I think that's all I got to say here. I mean, through and through, it is a really, really solid nose and especially a mid palate. I think mid palate is where this one really shines. The finish is really good too. I really don't have any faults into this one. So with that in mind, let's get into the scores, and I don't think you'll be too surprised based on everything that I've said thus far. But here on the channel, we do have a three-tier scoring system. Essentially, there are 10 metrics that are behind this, but ultimately it can get summarized into flavor, experience, and value. Flavor is just how enjoyable it was each step of the way. Experience, you're getting more into the depth of the nose, the depth of the flavors, the feel of the whiskey, the balance of the whiskey, things like that. And then value, just the price you paid. Now, I don't think I said it up front. I believe this was about $100, maybe 90 to $100. So it is expensive, especially for a 4-year whiskey. But as you can see, I really don't have any problems paying this price. I did dip it a little bit. Something around 80 might be a little more comfortable, but maybe prices will vary. But still, I'm still going to buy these each chance I get, even at 100. So that is what it is. That ultimately evens out to a score of an 85, which, all things being considered, will be pretty darn close to top 10 bourbons of the year so far. I think it's in the top 10 bourbons, maybe not the top 10 whiskeys, but the top 10 bourbons of the year so far. So we'll see if it can hold on through the end of the year. 85, really, really strong score. I am going to recommend this to everybody. So I put 10 out of 10. Please try Still Austin. Everybody needs to try this. So many up and coming brands that excite me, Still Austin is at the top of that list. And I've went into this not liking a whole lot of Texas whiskeys, to be frank. And now that Still Austin's come into play, totally changed my mind about Texas. This is Texas gold. So do I plan to buy another? Yes, I will continue to buy every single barrel I see and can get my hands on over the course of the next year at least. I mean, these are just amazing, and this pour was amazing. So that wraps up at least the review portion of the Still Austin. If you give me one more minute, I'd like to talk a little bit about the notes that Nancy said, because I had to avoid this tag. I had to hide this tag before the review. You can see that I went into this bottle quite a bit before I reviewed it. And then I got real excited after I finally got all my notes down. I'm like, let's see what Nancy said. All right. Bit more elegant, bit more articulate, of course. Nose. Blueberry muffins, honey butter, poached pears and ruby port with blue cheese. Holy crap, that's a note. Blackberry pancakes, maple syrup, and then Jamaican allspice. So nothing about the pomegranate or lemon zest that I brought up, but hitting those blueberry notes. Man, that blueberry note is so prominent. She brings it up again as well. Then on the palate, huckleberry cobbler, vanilla bean ice cream, black currant, blueberry cheesecake, mocha nasal hut tort, brown baking spices. Mentioned a whole bunch of spices and brown sugar. And then she says the blueberry cheesecake. I was still bringing up the blueberry muffins, but then mixing it with custard. So there's kind of a rhyme to that when you kind of go through these tasting notes, That's what I love breaking down other people's notes, because it's like, oh, I kind of went at the same angle you did, but, my dictionary or, the flavors in my head aren't necessarily the same. And then on the finish, she says plum preserves on buttered toast. I could see that. Stilton cheese. I have no idea what that means. With red grapes and barley wine. So she's getting a lot of wine influence. Maybe that's finally that pomegranate note that I mentioned comes back on the finish. Maybe that's my equivalence of that. But I do think it's fun running through other people's notes and just trying to tie the dots together a little bit. Because, something like a blueberry muffin. How often do you call out blueberry muffin on a bourbon? I think I've done it maybe, not even blueberry muffin. This has to be the first blueberry muffin. Blueberries in general, maybe I've called it out 10 times out of who knows how many whiskeys. It's very rare. So I was pretty happy when I saw that she liked the blueberries too. All right. One last sip, and then we'll call this a day. Well, thank you for joining me today, whiskey friends. Hopefully this convinces you to try some Still Austin. If you've tried it before, either the batches or the single barrels, let us know in the comments what you think. Are you in love with this brand as much as I am? And will you be hunting down future single barrels as well? Thank you for joining me today, whiskey friends. We'll catch you on the next whiskey review. Goodbye, everybody.
Jeff, just be friends with me. But you have these whiskey friends, and you say hello again. Oh, Jeffrey, you should just be friends with me. But you have these whiskey friends, and you say hello.